Hi everyone, my name is Anthony Attanasio. I'm the CEO of Hawk Strategies and I'm your host for TransAction TV. Our guest on today's episode is my good friend Commissioner Fran O'Connor. Fran's not only the commissioner of the DOT, but he's also the chairman of the New Jersey Transit Corporation, the New Jersey Turnpike Authority, and the South Jersey Transportation Authority. Commissioner, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Anthony.
No, it's great to have you.
Yeah.
You've been in the job now for over a year, and it's been a really quiet job, right?
Oh, yeah, very quiet.
No issues have popped up, oh, wait a minute. What's my first question for you? 100-year-old mines in Morris County, otherwise known as Route 80. So, in addition to delivering the most robust capital program you've ever had to deliver, managing your grant programs, managing a department of 3,500 people, abandoned mines in Morris County have been collapsing, creating sinkholes that shut down I-80. Can you tell us a little bit about what's been going on and how you're handling that?
Yeah, I mean, the first sinkhole we had was around Christmas time, and that was in the shoulder, and not realizing it was a compounding problem. We fixed that, and then naturally we had two more sinkholes. One being a major one in the shoulder, where it first started as 14 by 14 going down almost 70 feet. And again, as you said, it was a mine built. It's an abandoned mine that was built in the late 1800s,
Right.
abandoned in the it was the late 1700s. It was abandoned in the early 1800s.
Okay.
An iron ore mine.
Okay.
And then Route 80 was built over it in the 60s, the late 60s. So it was a surprise to me. I didn't realize, number one, how many mines we have up there just in that area alone. In that north quadrant, you probably have about over 400 mines.
Wow.
In that Morris, County area, you probably have 200 mines. So our, when the big sinkhole that the second sinkhole, because it's three of them. The second one was up like a 6-inch increase, where a state police caught it and said something's wrong, and immediately we went out. We shut the east down.
Right.
Where we did the test, and doing the test, because what you're doing borings in to see around. It collapsed, and the actual machine fell into it, but it only went down about 3 feet.
Wow.
And nobody was hurt, which is miraculous. Nobody's been hurt on these sinkholes. And then naturally, the one in the shoulder, we closed the westbound automatically because of the safety of it.
Right.
And so now we're fixing it. We're, you have to realize the eastbound is probably easier to fix than the westbound, because the westbound goes over the bridge over 15. Right. So we had to bring a specialist from a team from Kentucky on drilling, where there's hardly no vibrations, but it's very tedious work.
Yeah.
So that's taken the longest time, because we're hoping to get 2 lanes open on 80 West by May 4th.
Okay.
But again, as I think the mining director up there for the museum said, it's Swiss cheese underneath there. So we go very slow,
Right.
and attack, to make sure everything is safe. On the eastbound, we hope to get 2 lanes open by May 18th.
Okay.
And then the hope is to get all lanes back to normal in June 20th.
Okay. Now, you talked about, this abandoned mine situation, and clearly you're focused on this roadway right now. And of all the roads, I mean, to inhibit an interstate's travel, that's really going to have an impact on our state. What about the future? Meaning,
Right.
It's you knew this problem now, but there clearly are other abandoned
Right.
mines.
Right, and there are. So what we're doing, number one, our first priority is to fix this.
Right.
After we fix this, we are the governor directed the DOT, the Department of Labor, and DEP to work together to come up with a strategy or a plan on doing our other mines. Now you have to realize, after this 80, after we're completed, we put sensors in the road, okay, and it's a 3-pronged sensor. There's a sensor on top that shows any movement of asphalt.
Okay.
And then you have one in the middle to watch the soil, and then one way down for naturally the bedrock. So we have sensors in the roads now on 80 around that. So when we drill, it could tell us that the soil's moving.
Right.
So that's the important thing, and that's why I always point to Route 80 West, because being very, very tedious
Yeah.
because that's where the large sinkhole is, that's where the shaft is under, and that's where the bridge is.
The structure,
So
right.
we have to be very careful. So after we get this fixed, we will go to the other, because remember this shaft, you go into Route 15 up there, Route 10 all the way up on top. So we will get a plan together where the governor wants us to hire on staff mining experts. And we're looking toward the folks that retired from the federal government.
Wow, okay.
So us and the Department of Labor and DEP has getting these names, getting resumes to see who we can hire to put a plan together on how we're going to do, because we want to make sure all the road's safe.
Right.
Now, I would think going forward, you would probably put some type of sensors
Okay.
in the road that we know. Now, we know there's probably about, I would say, 60 mines that come within 15 feet of 1,500 feet of state highways.
Okay.
Because remember, you really don't have the detailed plan.
Right.
So does the shaft go this way? The shaft might go this way. So
Kind of like as-built.
kind of like,
Yeah.
and we went back to the when they built the road to see if there was an as-built, or anything of the mines, and there wasn't.
No description.
So
okay.
that's the thing that we have to get. We're working on that currently ourselves, the Department of Labor and DEP, to make sure going
Yeah.
forward.
That's fantastic. I mean, and I think that should give confidence to the taxpayers and the road
Yeah.
users that
Yeah,
this
and-
isn't just a patch up and go. It's
And that's why
right.
I feel for the folks up in 80, because the amount of how that's such a heavily used corridor, and the stores that are affected, the businesses are affected.
Yeah.
But I can't open that until it's safe.
Safety is the
And
number one priority.
We've been working with the locals, the local police, on the detours. I mean, the state police, I think they have now 44 troopers up there, staffing each, traffic facility
Yeah.
to make sure, and we can do adjustments too.
Sure.
Because the one thing is you can't put the traffic, especially commercial traffic, on the local roads. We're trying to go upstream to get them on 287, to get them on 202, to get them on 78,
Right.
so they're not coming up to 80 and then going through the local
Sure.
roads.
Downtown Boonton or Wharton,
Well, yes,
getting tractor
that's-
trailers blocking intersections.
Yes,
and-
so that's the stuff that we've been fine-tuning with the local mayors and the local police chiefs. We do keep in close contact with them. Unfortunately, but sometimes you have an accident on one of your detour roads.
Sure.
It just complicates it.
And those networks were not meant for the volume that they're getting, and it is what it is.
And the amount of
yeah.
volume up there is just unbelievable.
It really
It
is.
is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
One thing I think which is great for the department, as a former assistant commissioner of the department, I was there during Hurricane Irene and Superstorm Sandy, and in Irene, a chunk of 287 fell into the Rockaway River,
Yep.
right? The scouring underneath, and the commissioner of DEP looked at my commissioner at the time, and he said, "Fix it, and we'll take care of all the permitting and paperwork. Don't
right.
wait, go." And it's just great to see, and that's what's happening here on 80. But when we really need it, our state government answers the call, and this is being addressed in as timely and efficient a manner as possible. And I think everybody at home needs to understand that.
and that's why the governor declared a state of emergency in Morris County. It gives myself, executive powers on doing certain stuff, and
Right.
also the attorney general on closing, if he wanted, powers to close certain roads to traffic,
Right.
to say, hey, you can't go there. So it gives us more powers, and it helps with the federal government coming in, offering their resources.
Yep, Secretary
to
Duffy
us.
was in
Yes.
with you. Yep.
So that's the important thing, that the declaration of the state of emergency up there. And then I know our other departments are talking to the local businesses to try to help them,
Right.
and try to figure out and what loans are available, what
Yes.
grants are available to help them.
Right. Governor
again,
Murphy
'cause
and
you
the
would
EDA
think-
have done a lot. Yeah.
Because you would think, like a lot of folks, you say, oh, there's a lot of traffic and you're going to get more business, but it's not true,
No.
because people are trying to get home.
Right.
They don't want to stop the extra 15 minutes to get their coffee or something. So I really feel for those businesses that, and that's what we're trying to, but again, we're trying to go cautiously, but I have two crews working, on both sides of the roadway.
Yes.
So simultaneously, you have them working on the 80 East and 80 West, and working to go toward the middle. And they're working 24/7 nonstop, and they've been there since day one doing that. And as I said that in my speech today, of these folks and the commitment that they do, it's just truly. And we have experts. We reached out to experts in Pennsylvania, have talked to them, and we even hired some consultants for the experts from Colorado, because those are the states that have a lot of mines.
Big mining states, sure.
And coming in, so.
Well, that's great. And this is a good transition to get into safety, because obviously this is a crisis or an emergency, but every day of the year your focus has been on safety, which should be for anyone in the transportation world, but the commissioner has really been exemplary about keeping safety first. The governor recently signed a Target Zero law, creating a commission which you now chair. Can you talk to us a little bit about your vision and follow through on safety?
Yeah, and that's I have to applaud the governor for his vision and his support to get to Target Zero. And as we say, Target Zero, it's where we have to get to 0 fatalities by 2040. I'm a person that said, why wait there? Let's try as possible, because we all know 2024 was a bad year for fatalities for the state of New Jersey. Over 600 people died, especially more pedestrians died on our roads in 2024. And as soon as I got on, the job, right away I said, not that it wasn't a priority, but let's say, okay, I call it a way of life. And everything we do, even on the design of new projects. Now, what Target Zero is going to do takes into effect that you have many of the state departments, DCA, DEP, state police, highway, safety, all these departments from the state side. So you have 13, and also the transportation organizations from South Jersey, North Jersey, it's all part of the commission. So this is the first time you have a statewide, all transportation, and New Jersey Transit and New Jersey Turnpike is on this, which gives it a more level to say, okay, and then that's one part. The commission members are one part, but with we have a requirement that we have to do a report, an annual report, and an update to the governor and the legislature. Now, the law doesn't require us to do that by February 1st, but I have set the goal for the commission that we want to do this report by December to the governor and the legislature. And it's a reason. I mean, I'm here to January 20th. I want something done that's, people could say, when whoever's in my seat, the next seat says is, all right, we can continue this. And the second part of the commission is the meetings we're having with the advocates, the consultants on these working committees. When I talk about the pedestrians, the bicyclists, those advocates who live and breathe safety are part of the development of the plan. And this plan, as I see it, technology, data, even our roads. The governor made his in his State of the State that we are going to fix the 10 most dangerous intersections in this state. And that's with technology, and that's also looking at how are we signing these roads for pedestrians to cross. We're going to have the technologies with this great technology for, I call it the smart signal, that can actually detect that a pedestrian's in the crosswalk and keep that light, so if you have somebody who's elderly, a child, to get through that crosswalk. But also, it has, if it light's turning yellow and it sees a car's speed, that it knows it's not going to stop at that red light, it'll keep that light yellow, so it can get it through. So that's the smart technology that, but also looking at the roads. Like, let's face it, some of our roads were built how many years ago? And we have grown, right? Our populations have grown. So that's all that stuff, and that's why it's so important, not for just only for, you have the Department of Health involved, the Department of DCA. Also, we have to get the Department of Education involved because of the educational aspect of how do we start from kindergarten up on it. So that's the vision. I want to see a plan, an action plan. We have some great people on the commission and some great advocates. And we know the advocates. We had one public meeting already. They were there. We took names, and they're going to be part of this working committee. So we get a draft plan by October. That will be our second public meeting, and approve it in December to go to the legislature and the governor.
That's fantastic. I love what you said about wanting to set up the next commissioner you want to set them up to succeed, not fail. You don't want them to inherit the problem. You want them to inherit the solution, or at least the process that led towards the solution. And I'll never forget when I went to my first job in transportation was with Jim Weinstein at New Jersey Transit.
Great guy.
Right?
Great
we all
guy.
love Jim. And he walked me into his office and he said the first thing he wanted to teach me, and he pointed to the wall, and it had the piece of the Athenian Oath, which all commissioners have in their office, right? Which paraphrased is, leave it better than you found it. And it really seems like you're embodying that. So thank you from a safety perspective.
And I have to say, what former Commissioner Diane Gutierrez Cacchetti has left for me, with the assistant commissioners that she put into place, and the department. I mean, she started the customer service department in a sense of, hey, we have to, and I just continue
and the commitment
that.
to communities.
Right, with the communities going.
Yeah.
So she has set programs in place that, it's easy to follow.
Yeah.
And whatever I can do for the next person that comes in, and that oath, in my office is in the back, and every commissioner has signed that oath and put their years in, and the new commissioner will do that when they come in. So that's the thing. Yes, I want to make it where they have a game plan, and that commissioner, whoever's in that commission seats, say, okay, how are we doing? What is the game plan? Not just a plan to get and put on the shelf. It has to be used, and that's where I think it's, and it's going to be hard work. It's going to be a lot of hard work in the next, if you're talking about the next 6 months, it's going to be with a body of work with the committees that are getting together, working on this so we can have action, right? You can always say we have short term, and then what do we do long term?
But don't put another blue ribbon study on the shelf
and say I did that.
Because listen, our state has unique challenges, because we are so densely populated, we are so our age of our infrastructure, but the ingress egress points on our state highways. I mean, a lot of our state highways don't feel like state highways, right? They feel like they are main streets, or you have folks. I live in Somerville, which Route 28 is Main Street, right?
Main Street,
and
absolutely.
People are running across the street as if they live in Mayberry, but it's not. It's a state highway.
It's a state highway, and you got that in 27.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, even Route 9 is becoming almost like a super highway now going through. And even though it goes down to one lane, it's still the traffic and the congestion and the people trying to get across. So, and I say this all the time, it's, the cities are building warehouses. The cities are building the big apartments. They're doing a lot of building, and people still have their cars.
Right.
So that's the thing that we have to figure out. Okay, we still have the cars. How do we, figure this traffic and making sure it's safe for all users?
Right.
Yeah.
And if we get some of those folks into transit to help free up some of the volume, would be great.
Absolutely.
On our roads,
no, it's true.
Right.
It's true.
So talk to me a little bit about how you've actually, your department's been pretty. And let me go back a step. I think I should acknowledge, as you did, the work that Commissioner Scicchetti did with funding, with innovation, and putting the state into a better place with transportation. It really has set you up to continue, and the industries I know are very grateful. So. And one of the things that started and that you've continued is creative messaging and ways of communicating your safety message to the motoring public. Can you talk a little bit about how you've used that?
And that's, and I said it, we started and that is a marketing communication. We call it the what if and the respect campaigns. And what the whole idea was, we had to get behind what people, when they get in the car, to get them thinking. Because the first thing I was told on the job, you can't control driver behavior. And so those two things, campaigns, is trying to do driver. And if you notice, anybody from the DOT who gives a talk, they always do a safety element in it and how we can do it. And just think of the message of, what if the last thing a person or a child saw on her bicycle was you driving your car, texting, or changing the station or eating. That's something to think. And I always say that before you get in your car, think of what you are going to do. And we have we put our signal on. That's just to warn somebody we're going to cut them off. Or we do the four lane Jersey slide from the left lane to go to the right lane to exit. And so how there's the what if and the respect.
Right.
Even, we put our messages, don't be a Grinch, let them merge. that's the things that we have to be respectful for.
Texting and driving,
You know,
forget
texting
about
and
it.
drive, it's you forgot about it. So I mean, that's the stuff that we have to. Everybody, and I said everybody. That's just like you get in, and being commissioner, I notice it's so much more watching people and how they drive, and it's frustrating because you have one driver that could, change their lives and change somebody else's lives. And so that's what the whole idea of the what if and the respect, to get behind people to think before they drive or before they drink and drive or before and that's the whole idea. You try to say, okay, what do we do where, we had 2 fatalities in Toms River where unlicensed 17-year-old took a joyride and went through a red light and hit a car. That's the stuff where, number one, education, how do we get into school systems, and, all about driving, drinking, substance abuse, stuff like that.
Sure.
We have to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
To supplement the what ifs and the respect marketing campaigns, and we'll continue that. We made the posters. Mayors who have came in, assembly people say, "Can I have copies of this?" And I'm going to put it in my office.
That's fantastic.
And that's what we do, because that's one way of doing it.
Yeah.
I chuckle sometimes when I visit a town hall and I see these, and I'm like, yes. And that's what I talked about, the $183 million hits on these messages, and that's important. That means people are looking at them, people see them, and it's so important for
penetrating.
this.
That's great. That's great. On a lighter note, I would say if you could throw a message in there and maybe ask Pennsylvanians not to sit in the left lane of our highways, I think we'd all appreciate that as well.
Stop camping in the left lane.
Yeah, we go to Pennsylvania to camp. Don't come to New Jersey to campaign in camp in our fast lanes.
Yeah, we'll start. I mean, we've been focused on our signs. People say, "Oh, you haven't put," I'm saying, "Well, we'll focus." Remember, your whole winter time is focused on winter.
Absolutely.
And this time we're focusing on detours, roadway, and then we're in our pothole repairment program. So that's our sign. So we'll get back to the sun. I said once I think I get past 80, and and there was some great signs up in Route 80 where some of the businesses put up signs. Stop here and eat. Sinkhole ahead. Stuff like that.
Right.
And that's the stuff. But we'll get back to our traditional messaging once we get through this season.
No, that's great. I got one last question for you. Very exciting announcement recently that NASTO, the National Association of State Transportation Officials, has chosen New Jersey for its annual conference, and the NJDOT is going to be the host.
Oh, excited about that.
Very exciting for us as a host state. Can you talk about that conference and the importance of it and what folks should expect?
And as you said, it's the Northeast, and it's so important. It was in New Hampshire. They did a fantastic job last year, New Hampshire, of just folks getting together and talking about solutions and talking about technology and talking about innovation. And to host this is our first one we ever hosted. And thanks to former Commissioner Scacchetti got this. But having folks come in here in New Brunswick. And that's excited for New Brunswick because that's just such a great town.
That's a transformative community when you really look at what's happened there with Rutgers and the DevCo and the developments.
Absolutely,
and,
absolutely.
The train station now.
The train station, they can hop on the train if they want to go to Philadelphia or Washington
or New York.
So it's important, and just the whole idea of it is safety through innovation, right? That whole topic, and I said it today. We need big thinkers, and we have a lot of smart people.
Communities right away, yeah.
We have smart people that have to come to this and spread, because we're open to everything. And I have people after my talk this afternoon come up to me and say, "Hey, I have some ideas on innovation. Give me your card because guess what? That's what we need." Right. And I said this from one of my first speeches. I can't do this alone, and I said that. So NASTO is another way of now we have people from the north. I think it goes down to West Virginia now. So I can't just say the Northeast, the East. Come in here now with their experts and their schools of transportation coming in here and spreading there. Let's talk about our innovation of how we increase safety along our roads. Right. And like I said, this is not, a red or a blue. This is an issue for everybody.
Everybody.
And it's across. It's because the aisle's a race, right? This is everybody.
Yeah.
So that's why.
We always say there are no red and blue drivers, right?
That's right.
This isn't
Absolutely.
political. It's not. Everybody needs to be safer. But this organization, bringing together the minds and the leaders from all of
all the states,
Yep.
and you have, and I say it's the East Coast, but you have from people from South come in, Florida. Everybody comes into this. We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to, number one, to host our Jersey. You know, we're going to have an eating contest of a contest of what's better, pork roll and cheese or
Taylor ham
and
and
cheese. We're going to have a tasting contest to see who
wins
that. And then for Central Jersey folks, we're just going to have Taylor ham / pork roll and cheese for them, because they don't care whether north
we're in the
or
center.
south.
We don't care. We eat them both. Yeah,
so,
no, I like that.
So no, but that's something that we're going to do a Jersey thing. So,
Got to be it, Jersey style.
I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, like you said, Anthony, bringing the smartest minds in here to talk about innovation to safety. How do we innovate? What can we use? What can we do to make our road safety? So this is going to be great.
Yeah.
We're doing it. It's in 3 different locations in the sense that we're using the State Theater. So good to have.
Okay.
And then we have the Hyatt Hotel,
Right.
and I think we're sparse it off to something else where different things. So it'll be centrally located, and we'll have our micro transit to move people back and forth if we need to. So last year, we're hoping that we'll get 800 people.
Okay.
Here. I think it's going to be more because people like New Hampshire was probably. I don't know what the final numbers were in there, but it was really attended well.
This is exciting. I think it speaks volumes about the NJDOT, your leadership, the governor's leadership, that we're in a position to host.
I have to. You could say, the governor. I love the governor. I really, and I first met him in December of when I went for my interview. Never knew him. Sat down with him, and we just hit it off. And
Felt like you knew him for a long time, right?
And that's let's face it, I can't do what I do without him.
Sure.
Right? It's his vision. He says, no, you have to help people. You have to, so following that vision, because I was like, wow, this is my vision too. I love it. So he has been just such a tremendous help and a tremendous supporter of the department with that. And that's, I'm hoping that he's going to talk, and give an opening speech.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
In ASTO. Depending on his schedule, because it's the summertime, we have to figure out.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get that, and then hopefully we have a couple other people that we want to come in, because this go range, transit folks. We'll have the great Chris Calori come and talk. He's unbelievable, Chris, isn't he? He's just unbelievable.
Steps into a place with bombs going off all around him.
He
and
does.
Hair doesn't move, and he's calm and collected.
He does.
And,
he's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So.
Now, we're blessed in this state with you as our commissioner, and Chris and Jim Carone and Steve Dougherty. I mean, we have a true line of great leaders.
Absolutely. And I said that today, with my colleagues at all those agencies. If it wasn't for them, they make my job so much easier. And I respect, the 3 you mentioned, and then you have even working with Rick Cotton from the Port Authority is unbelievable. So you have these truly amazing people that know how to run organizations. And most of them I know my whole, for 20 years. So coming in together, it's really good.
That's great. And Commissioner, I got to say, we want to thank you on behalf of the industries, on behalf of TransAction. Your leadership has been fantastic. And, your story starting out, right, collecting tolls, coming out of Jersey City, rising up through the Turnpike, being a national leader in the engineering consulting world for tolling, and then to come home to Jersey and be our commissioner.
Yeah, I tell you.
It's a great Jersey story.
Sometimes, and I realize this when I'm sitting on a dais, and you look at, and I think of that, and I say I never want to lose that feeling, and I'm saying to myself, how did I get here? Like, wow. And it's just such a feeling, and humble to be there and do this job. I mean, this is, and I said this, after 40 years in the industry, this is the best job I ever had. It really is, because you're helping people.
Yeah, every day.
You're helping, everybody, right? And I always said the department always tries to get to yes, because we're a customer service department.
You do.
And we try to help everybody. So doing that, and you talk about me, I collected tolls for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I said the best thing that I ever did in a sense of for customer service was collect tolls, because that taught me customer service. And you had a woman coming in who's lost with her family, her children, and you're trying to direct her to a traffic. Or you have a person who just landed in New Jersey for a new job at the airport coming through. Or you have folks who are working at midnight. They're delivering milk. They're delivering papers. You're meeting these folks, and you're performing, right? Because they always said the toll collectors, so your first line,
it's a front line.
Of customer service. So that taught me things that I still use today. So, being in this position, it's just truly a humbling and a remarkable, just to be here, it's just unbelievable. And I could see, and hopefully I said I never want to lose that. I never want to, for the 2 years I'm here, I get on, I'm like, and it's interesting, right? As soon as you get in the car, the first call, might have a day plan, but the first call, the day is going different. You're like, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do.
What do they say? The greatest laid plans of mice and men?
It's mice and men,
right?
so it's good.
That's
but it is. But I have to thank you, Anthony. You've been a friend as soon as I started, and just what you did here for TransAction. It's just unbelievable to get, and Tom Pendergast said, to get 1,200 people to come here constantly. This your second year, was 11. So to do that, it's unbelievable, and it's just, as they say, this is our Super Bowl.
It is. This is our transportation Super Bowl.
Yeah. So
thank you for that, Mike Vieira, the conference organizer. He's done great things and collaboratively with us, and we've tried to make this not just the typical show up, check box, do speeches, but make it a living, breathing experience, and it seems to be working.
And I do, and I try to sneak into rooms to listen, and then
you get called
somebody
out by
calls
friends,
me out,
right?
and I'm like, no, I just want to sit down and listen. Unfortunately, I had to leave, and poor Sam, because I had to go on a phone call. You know. And the commissioner's
during the
leaving,
VIP,
I'm like,
right?
oh,
So you got announced
no.
on your departure too.
And I'm like, come on.
But one of the things about that is your approachability, your likability. You said it. You haven't lost your customer service touch, and we all feel so confident having you there because of how easy it is to work with you. And you said something else, which is a great way to close, which is how it's the best job you've ever had. John Case and I at Hawk, we still miss the DOT. We love what we do every day. Every day we love what we do, and we always talk about how we miss DOT. It's a special place,
and
it
that's
really
where
is.
Anybody you talk to, and I always say, anybody that worked in the DOT, you're welcome back, and I say that to everybody. You're welcome back because they always thought the commissioner's wing. Oh, no, you're welcome back, and it just goes. People like you, people like John, people like Justin Braz, you guys built what we're doing. And I even say, Commissioner Diltz, what he has done. I said, you have built
Steve's
what we're
great.
going. So, it's a great
fraternity. It really is.
And you talk to people who retired, who are now in the private sector. They were with us for 27 years, 30 years, and they say it with pride. I worked for the department for 30 years, and that's what my immediate reaction is. I said, thank you for your service. Thank you for helping us. So
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Commissioner, this has been a real pleasure. I want to thank you so much for your service, but for your time today and for joining us.
And I apologize, I was late too.
No, you're never late. We're dealing with those phone calls as they're happening. So we appreciate your service. Thank you for everything, and thank you for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. Commissioner Fran O'Connor of the New Jersey Department of Transportation, and thank you so much for joining us in this episode of TransAction TV.